Hello again. As Christmas draws near, I find myself thinking about the nature of the deity and other deep matters. Those with no interest in religion might be wise to switch off immediately. I can't help noticing that these days anybody with faith in God is assumed to be somehow a believer in unscientific ideas. Faith is viewed as nothing more than an attempt to believe in things which run counter to reason. This is all very odd. I worship the living God, but that does not mean I don't keep up to date with modern scientific developments. If ever I find that my religion seems to be at odds with science, then something has gone wrong somewhere along the line. When there's a clash of this kind, it means either the religion or the science must be wrong. It isn't always obvious which it is, of course. When I was a lot younger, science and religion had different opinions about cosmology and the origin of the universe. To give one example, it turned out that the science was wrong and religion was right on that point. The mainstream view when I was a child, mainstream scientific view that is, was that the universe had always existed in more or less the same form for the whole of eternity, that the universe was simply a given. That has been the only rational opinion on that subject since the 19th century, of course. Most religions, though, asserted that the universe had been created at one specific point and that there was a time when the universe did not exist. Christians and Jews will be familiar with one of the first verses in the book of Genesis. The Lord said, "Let there be light," and there was light. It was a Catholic priest who also happened to be an astronomer who came up with scientific reasons why this might actually be true. Georges Lemaitre devised the Big Bang theory, which is now the orthodox scientific understanding of the universe, the origin of the universe. The Catholic Church accepted this just after the Second World War, but it was not until the 1960s that scientists as a whole agreed that Jesuit Georges Lemaitre was right. This is a case where religion was right and science was wrong. Of course, there's plenty of cases where it's worked out the other way. I know some Christians who think that the earth was only created 6,000 years ago. This contradicts the science, and on this one I think I'm with the scientists and their 13,000 million years rather than 6,000 years. One of the reasons that I like to keep up to date with science, by subscribing to New Scientist and Scientific American, for example, is to check that my religious ideas are not diverging too far from scientific thinking. As I say, if that happens, either my religion is wrong or the science is faulty. Just as science changes, so too should religion, or at least religious belief. Sometimes one requires faith in religion. This isn't blind and unreasoning belief in something irrational, as so many people seem to think. Faith is a final step in a chain of reasoning, a step for which the evidence is not quite sufficient. Reason can take me a long way along the road. I can understand the idea of the Big Bang and how the force of gravity almost perfectly balanced the expansion of the universe. I can understand the way that hydrogen and helium formed in the proportions which they did, the formation of stars and galaxies, all manner of things. There comes a point, though, when those clouds of hydrogen form themselves spontaneously into giraffes and trees and human beings, that I find something is missing in the scientific explanation for how this happened. I think that the missing part of the equation is the Lord God, who created the universe from nothing and put in the necessary laws which would cause life and consciousness to arise from inanimate matter. That is faith. It's a final step, but one which doesn't run counter to the available evidence. I find myself pondering these things at this time of year and wondering if that story of the Lord speaking to Our Lady and her becoming the mother of God could be a true one. It's one of those strange stories which is so implausible that it might just have the ring of truth. Whether it's true or not is of just an enticing myth. I don't know. I can't see anything impossible in it. Mind, I see nothing impossible in many of the stories that I find in the Quran or Hebrew Bible either. And I'm very much opposed to any sort of religion which claims a monopoly on truth. Perhaps a Christmas myth suits me simply because it's what I grew up with. Anyway, I hope that everybody watching this has a very Merry Christmas. And although Hanukkah ended last week, I also wish a belated Chag Sameach to any Jews watching. I'll be back on Boxing Day.